So this is the first video of the data analysis technique. Um, I believe under lecture 15 in the D2L, you'll find two study sheets, study sheet 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. These are the steps in the technique and that I'm going to demonstrate. So for this first one, I'm going to do steps 1 and 2, and then the next one will be 3 and then 4. The first item on here is just I want you to kind of think about what this is all about. Why are we doing this? And lecture 14 was dedicated to it, to talking about the technique, giving some background on the business case for safety, and why we're going to be using workers' compensation data in this project. So I want you to think about the context, the justification, the background, the objectives for this study. It was all in lecture 14. You should have taken notes on it and understand it, because in your report that you're going to be writing, you're going to need to talk about, describe to the reader, what is workers' compensation, what is a loss run data set. A loss run data set is basically all the claims that were made for that particular policy. That's their loss run report. Why are you able to analyze past work comp claims to prioritize safety efforts and justify investment in the safety program? Well, I covered all that in lecture 14. So if you can't answer those questions, go back, watch the video, do the readings, and you'll see. So the first question, the first thing we want to look at is, what are we looking at? So let's look at a loss run data set, shall we? This is an actual loss run data set that I got from a friend of mine. So the first thing I want to do is, what do I have here? So we're looking at an Excel sheet. I think it's blown up to 170. I hope it comes through on this video. So column A, all the columns are variables of the claim. Each row is a claim in itself. So each claim has variables. The variables that are collected as part of the investigation will be the date of loss. And it looks like they have time in there as well, but it doesn't look like it's always there. We've got a description of loss, though it looks like it's not filled in. We have claim status, which when it's a C is closed, when it's O it's open. We have an accident description for column D. So just quickly taking a look here at some of these descriptions, we may be able to use these descriptions to better decipher some of the entries, some of the other variables, or maybe even reclassify based on what it says. It doesn't look like these descriptions are too in depth or detailed, so it's going to be limited. Under column E, we've got body part. I know some people like to analyze body part. I think it's a secondary or tertiary variable at best, because different causes can cause injuries to one particular body part. And that doesn't help me in my analysis. Nature of injury. So some people may go, oh, okay, this must be cause. Well, no. If you kind of look at this here, some of these entries here, contusion, sprain, strain, laceration. Nature of injury is actually the diagnoses. So what actually occurred? What was type of injury is it? Cause of loss. So we think this is cause, but you got to read. So particle, sharps, machine equipment, box barrel container, all those damn box barrels and containers, machine and equipment. So it gives us an idea of what's causing the loss, but look at the right next to it, it's type of loss. Foreign object in eye, contact with sharp object, strain lifting, struck against. These are the type of categories we would find as a cause. If you refer back to when we reviewed the soy report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, these are the type of categories we want. So right here, column H, for this particular loss run data set, this is the cause. And it may be redefined later. The next, we've got work comp class code, work comp class code description. You recall that the way a premium is calculated for a company is they take a job class code and multiply that rate times the payroll divided by 100. But in this case, it's actually identifying a machine shop or radio apparatus. So it's more of a department. So we're going to use these comp codes as a department. Now, if it had machinist, or if it had CNC operator, radio operator, radio technician, then it would be a job. But for this particular data set, it looks like this is what we're limited to when we have to try to answer the question of where did people get hurt. All right. Now it looks like we're getting into the financials. We've got month paid indemnity amount, month paid medical amount, month paid expense, month paid legal 2. Interesting. Month paid voc which is vocational training maybe, and then month paid rehab amount. Then it goes to year total paid indemnity. So it looks like um, we've got different time limits here. We just did month and then year total, but the actual sort of financial categories, if you will, financial variables, are indemnity, medical, expense, two forms of legal, a voc, which is vocational, and then a rehabilitation. And then it starts over. So we've got recoveries now. So something was paid out, and then the company went after and tried to get someone else to pay for each one of those. So a lot of accounting here. There's a reserve. So when something gets filed, they have a reserve. They kind of estimate how much it's totally going to cost. You see, there isn't a lot of numbers here. I see a lot of zeros on the screen. So it depends on how they track that stuff. So we've got reserves for each one of the accountings. We've got total incurred, which is probably a combination of your total reserves and recoveries. I'm starting to see some numbers now. Um, and then we got the total stuff. And so maybe that's an incurred, so a combination of things. Total incurred, IT amount, maybe is technology, information technology amount, the claim type, got nothing, nothing, nothing. Then LT is probably lost time. And then we've got the date the claim was closed. So that's the final variable of the claims. So now the next step is to try to figure out the totals. But first thing I want to point out is down here on the tab it says master. Sometimes it says original or master or total, whatever it is. A rule of thumb, do not molest the master. We do not alter or in any way affect our original data set, because if we screw up later on, we need a pristine sample in which we can refer back to. So what's the first thing we do? We open up a new tab. It says sheet 1. So I go back to the master. I click on this upper corner here, sort of the apex between the A column and the one row. And I click on that, left click on it. See, it lights up everything. I give it a copy, or I use the macro Control C to copy it. And you see it's got these like, Saturday Night Live flashing lights. It's pretty cool. Go back to sheet 1. I'm in cell A1, column A, row 1. I do a Control V to paste. And so I've got a replication of the master here that I can start working with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this totals, because I want to know what I'm working with here. One thing we want to designate is how much time, what's the context. So I've got January 7th, 2008. Just scrolling down. No, I'm not. I screwed something up. No, I guess I did. Okay. So January 7th, 2000. I'm just going to write down here. January 7, 2008 to September, I can't spell, September 13th, 2013. So how much time is covered in this loss run report? It's February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So that's 8. That's 8 months. So 8 to 13 is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 5 years, 8 months. 8 months in a year, 8 months out of 12, so that's 2/3. So it's 5 and 2/3 years, if you will. So that's, really the context. It's the claims filed between January 7th, 2008, September 13th, 2013 for this particular company, about 5 years worth. So I have a good, 4 or 5 data points if I'm going to plot it over years. Look at all these are O's. These are all open. So this isn't a fresh data set by any means. It's 2016. But I got to show you, got to demonstrate this somehow. And it looks like more recently they have better descriptions here too. When did that start? Let's see here. Right now I'm just kind of playing around and having fun. That's what I do when I get a new data set. I've played this with this one in the past, but for the sake of the video. Wow, look at it. It actually, they started keeping a little bit better records in. Look at this. So maybe there's something here that we can use. It looks like it's just saying what body part got hurt. It's like another nature. Darn. Okay, so not great, not great. How many claims do we have? I have a row um, at the top, so it's number one. So it's basically the bottom row number minus one, which is 850 minus one. So total claims is 850. Not a lot. Your data set will probably have more because the more data points you have, the more you can slice and dice it to figure out what's going on. So what do I want to do now? Um, when I'm working from down below, it's difficult to know what I'm working with. So I'm going to bring down the header row to the bottom so I know what the rows represent. It just makes it easier. And all I do is highlight the row. I do a Control C to copy, drop back down below, click on the entire row, and Control V to paste. And now I know what the numbers are up above. Now, we've got a lot of data here that we don't need. We don't need to know the months. We're not going to be doing anything by month. Everything's going to be by year. So I'm going to take those. I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete. So now I've got the year total paid. I like that column because that's money that was actually delivered to the injured worker or to the treater of the injured worker. Recoveries and reserves and incurred and all that stuff. It's just not real numbers. It's estimations of what money should be set aside, and I'll just leave IT amount because I'm not going to use it. Sometimes you don't even get to choose. Sometimes it's just, we're just going to give you what we have for paids, and that's going to be it. So I'm doing the year total paid. There we go. Looks like we've got some substantial IT amounts. That's interesting. I'm not really sure what that comes out to. I'm not going to use it. What I want to do is I do want a total paid. And so I have to highlight a row, right click it, and go insert a column. And this is where I'm going to put my total paid. And the total paid column is the sum of the indemnity, medical expense, legal, legal 2, voc, and rehab. Equals, and I just type in equals. I think you can see that. Can I get it any? Hold on, I'm going to try to zoom this in for you. For some reason it's not working. There we go. So I've got the total paid. These are all the year pays. I'm probably going to have to fix that up so I actually know what I'm working with here. I'm just going to turn this into indemnity, med, expense, legal, legal 2, I don't know what that is, voc, and rehab. Okay, and I've got my total paid. So these were the year total paid. So I'm going to type in equals sum, put a parentheses, and then I'm going to click and highlight all this. So this is all the paids for this particular claim. Hit return. Now I can click on this cell, and when the cursor goes over the bottom right corner of the cell, it turns from, a white cross to a tighter black cross, and then I left click on it and I drag it. It's a copy paste in Excel. Yeah, it's going to take a little while for it to travel 850. Oh, look at that. If you drag it down really far, it flies. Don't want to overshoot it. I'm looking for 850. Watching the rows on the side, and there I am. Put it right there. So it added up all the columns here. I noticed that these are the old numbers, and so I'm going to correct that right now. I'm going to highlight the things I just typed in. Just give it the old Control C to copy. Scroll back down. Just got to click it on the far left and do the Control V to paste. Okay, so look at that. So now I want to know what we have and get some descriptives. So let's go over here. I'll type in total. So it's total for each item. So the total indemnity paid over the time period of the 850 claims is equal to the sum. Now I'm going to basically type something in here. K2, I'm in column K. Row 2 is the first row which has a claim because row 1 is the header claim. So I typed in K2, so that's the top cell, colon K851, and you'll see it light up. You see it light up there? So it's going to add up that column for me. And there you go. I'm going to type that in again just so you see what that was. And of course I got to change these into dollar values soon. So equal sum L2, that's the top one for this column, colon L851. See it light up there? There's my total. Now what I can do is I can click here, because I could have done it before, and I drag it all the way over. But first, really need to turn these into dollar values because I like the units to show. Can I just hit this? I don't like that. Okay, I got to Control Z to get rid of it. And I'm going to left click and go to Format Cells. And then I'm going to choose Currency and take away the pennies. Hit OK. That worked. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same for my totals table. Highlight, right click, cell format, currency, take away the decimal points. Round up to the nearest dollar, please. There we go. I'm just going to right justify that. So these are the column totals right here that I've got for the indemnity, med, legal, voc, rehab. So as you can see, there's nothing in the legal, there's nothing in the voc. I'll keep them in for right now, but I'll probably get rid of them later. At this point, you're probably wondering, what's he trying to figure out here? Well, the worksheet itself, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm going to get the total. I'm going to get the total average. And maybe I can copy and paste this. I don't know if that's something we can do. Beautiful. I'm just going to right justify it so I can see it. So these are the stats that I want. The column total, the total average. Type in, I'm going to try to blow this up so you can see it better. So the other one was equal sum, and then you give the range. And I'm just focusing on the column itself. I want to know what's there. I apologize, I'm having difficulty maneuvering. There we go. So total average equals average. And now I got to give the range. It's K2 to K851. And I can look up there and see that it's highlighted. And there's my average. And I can click on this and drag it over, and it'll do it for each column for which I drag it. So if I was to click on this, it's the average of R2 to R851, which we know is the average of the total amount paid. So these are all numbers we need, to kind of define the data set. The number of $0 paids. Now, we see zeros up there, right? When you take an average, it's taking the average out of each entry. So every zero counts as an entry. So therefore, our total averages is a low estimate of what the average for a particular claim is. So let's count the 0 paids. What we do is we type equal count if. It's a function that will count anything within the space you designate. The range is K2 to K851. We've been doing that. Comma, and then I have to designate what I want it to count. What I want it to count is whenever it has a 0. I just hit a 0, hit return. Same principle, click and drag. Every time I drag it to the right, it drags the range to the right. There we go. Now let's find out first of all, what's the percent of $0 claims? It's basically the number of $0 claims divided by the total, which we know to be 850. Because it was 851 minus 1. I need to turn that into a percent. Click on the cell, right click, format cells, and you see you can change it into whatever you want. In this case, I want it to be a percentage, and I'll actually give it just 1 decimal point. Okay, so that was right on the dot. And I'll drag it over. So this is more data than we want to figure out later. Next, the average. The paid average. So if it had a $0, it's not a paid average. It's the ones that are non-zero. The way we do this is we go equal. we take the total that was paid, we divide that by the difference of the total number of claims minus the $0 claims. So that would mean that's the number of claims that were paid, and that's the new average. So as you can see, $0 in a claim drives down averages. Let's see, format cells. Sorry, I wasn't thinking there for a second. This is currency now because we're talking. Get rid of the decimal points. So 5 grand. Went from 600 to 5 grand. Let's see what the significance is here. So we go across. Okay, so the total paid is the biggest, is the least different. Yeah, 0 and 0 is 0. That's, I think, we really think what we need to do is get rid of these. These are not helping. Right click when you click on the cell. I'm going to delete it. I'm not losing anything because it was zeros and it's just getting in the way. Same thing. Click on the column itself by clicking on the letter. Right click to bring up this menu. Hit delete. It's gone. All right. The maximum. How much? What's the maximum per? So equals max K2 to K851. So the maximum indemnity was 69,000. The maximum claim was $156,000. And I want to know what the percent of that max is, because that now is an indicator of skewness as far as how much is the max skewing. Because we just accounted for the $0 claims on the average. Let's see what the maximum does. So percent max is you click on the max amount and you divide it by the total. And you want it to be like 2-3%. That's 13, so it's considerable. Turn that into a percent. Again, click on the cell. Right click brings up the format cell, and then you choose the category, how you want to designate it. I mean, you can also change the alignment, the font, the border, the fill, protection, but this is just to play with the numbers to get the units correct. Drag this over. Oh, don't have to go any further. I've now got it all within a screen. So this here gives me my basic totals and descriptives. This is something that we can now use. We can keep it here as we copy from page to page to find out as we manipulate how when we remove things, or it's basically when we remove things, how it affects these total. So this is the type of stuff that you could actually report in the introduction, because these kind of define the data set. So as I had stated over here on the left, total claims 850, going from January 7th, 2008 to September 13th, 2013, which is approximately 5 years and 8 months. In that time, the company paid $2.34 million in claims. We could figure out what percent of the total is up here. That might be interesting, that all these break down to. So I'm just going to do that real quick, but I'm going to do it above here. So it's equal to the total that was paid for that subset divided by, and I got to type it in order to drag it. Of course, when I drag it over the total, it's going to be, the answer is going to be 1,738. And I don't want that to be pennies anymore. I want that to be a percent. Format cells to a percent. I think I might have to keep the 2 for this. It's going to be 100%. Watch, there we go. So now you can see a breakdown for this particular company, for this particular data set. So percent of claim payment type of total. Why not? So I added that because it seems interesting to me that we want to know something like that, because it's something we could report to management. You got to think, what does management want to see? They want to know what's been going on. And so 2/3 of all work comp is going to medical. So going to the hospital, the clinic, whatever it is. As little as under 5% is going to legal, 1% expenses. Rehab is getting about 5.7, and 21 for an indemnity. So this is the layout. We have the actual dollar amounts here. We have the total averages. That includes the $0 claims. We've got the number of $0 claims. We've got the percent of $0 claims. So out of the total, there's 12%. So 88% of all the claims had something paid on it. 12 did not. Let's see. You might be thinking, "Ooh, can we do a no loss time to loss time ratio?" Not in this data set. It's reserved for just the OSHA stuff, but it's something to look at. That it's a 12 to 88, but that's not an accurate depiction at all, so we wouldn't do that. Most of them don't have legal. It's just really interesting to look at it because this is like more of a frequency when you got percent claims, but when it's of the paid amount, it's a severity type thing. And you see here that the max claim, which is 156 and change, is about 6.7, which is influential. There's some influence there. That's very influential. The legal, maybe it's part of it, maybe it's not. It really depends. But we'll look at that in a minute. So this is the type of stuff that you could report in the introduction, which makes, defines, gives it, contextualizes what the data set is. And it gives us a little bit of insight. A little bit of insight, what are we looking at? The totals and where things go. But we really don't know anything. We just are defining what the total data set really is. And so I'm going to stop it here, and then we'll get to the next question in the next video.